Okay, right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, part of the New Talent Rising, and we've got a familiar face, and I've heard you guys are the iconic duo, so we're going to go into this and we're going to do our introductions. First, we will go with our introduction of a very familiar face, and that's the one and only Manny G. How are you doing, sir?
Turn to me. I'm very good, thank you. Yes.
This is it. I had to bring on this gentleman here. Sam, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you. Right, the dynamic duo, as it were. Here we are.
Lanks and SHUB.
Sorry. Yeah, so here we are. Lanks and SHUB indeed. So we've understood that you're an actor, as Manny said, you were acting you as the policeman in his music video. Yeah. But there's more than that. You guys are best buds, as it were.
Yes. We've known each other for a couple of years now. We've worked with each other at the Lyric Hammersmith on projects. We've currently got a project for Lyric Evolution now. I'm giving that a plug too. And that's on the 17th of March.
Yeah, so that'll be in the Lyric Hammersmith for a festival called Evolution, and that will be sharing a little bit of a project we're working on called Journeys. We won't talk too much about that at the moment, but there's always there's always room for more. But I guess what we're really here for today is
buds.
Buds, yeah. So like Manny was saying, we've worked together for a good few years now, and we've always sort of had this sort of banter, this comical sort of relationship where I know that I'm having a stressful day, I can hang around with Manny for a little bit and relieve some of that stress. And I think in life, we all go through these moments where you realise, wow, that was enjoyable, I learned I would have dealt with that differently, or maybe that's not how I wanted something to go. And I think it's about not going, okay, this something bad happened today, and that's it. It's about turning a negative into a positive. So what I like to do through my own life experiences is literally write about everyone's negative stories and turn that into something positive. Whether it be myself, stories about people I know, or people that just inspire me, or stuff that we're writers, so we come up with a lot of quite creative stories as well.
Yeah, we call and receive each other, and we do all the time on WhatsApp, man. We just get a lot of that flow as well. So if we see something like we had this scene where we stopped a bus instead of stopping a train, you know, that kind of banter right there, and we just kind of embed that in a way and we make that flow.
Work on it, develop it, and turn it into a sort of sketch that you think, oh wow, this looks quite natural and improv, where it probably was because the other day it probably happened for real life, or we were sort of creating it as we're coming along with this stuff. So luckily that's our sort of angle and what works well for me.
That's really interesting. What I really like and what really caught my ear was the taking a negative and turning it into a positive. I think that also generates hope for anyone watching who may have been in a similar situation to yourself, to realise it doesn't have to have a bad ending to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely, man. A lot of people, like young people that are related and they're in that kind of circumstance at the moment, can see, okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I'm smoking something that's not right for me, something that's not right for my brain. I'm young. I'm not a fully developed person. I haven't even matured. I haven't even reached the age of 18, let alone 21. And, you know, because you see two people that you could look up to on television telling you what's right and wrong and not to go down this path as these two people, it's a very big deal. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's a very good wake up call, you know? So it has that banter, it has that comedic kind of twist to it, but then bang, when that scene with Indy, when he's telling me, hey, you shouldn't be smoking, man, that's wrong. Go on the CBD instead of smoking the unnatural stuff. That's a wake up call. Like, so a young person could be sitting in a room like, shit, probably he's right. But still, you know,
I think the main thing is we don't want to preach to anyone. No one likes being told what to do, and luckily enough, we've learnt through some of these situations. So I think it's about going to young people. Look, we can't control you what you do. All we can do is give you the right information and prepare you for knowing this might happen if you choose that path. So luckily enough, I've been around all different types of people. I lived in a hostel from the age of 14. I was independently living, which allowed me to be around some very unpredictable situations, if that makes sense, which as a young person, I might have got involved at some sort of stages. So been around people, maybe be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I learnt from it and I went, do you know what? Something that's kind of bad isn't technically going to hold me down. I'm going to use this and rise above it and maybe try to show someone else who's not as luckily, hasn't learnt enough through life and might be going through my sort of similar situation to go, do you know what? You don't have to go through this to learn. You can learn before you've gone through something bad or experienced something bad. And luckily enough, I'm in a situation now where I can give something back. We've grown up. We're both matured.
We're both mature enough to tell it like it is.
We're always maturing, but I think we're both in a stage where we're at life. We've gone, do you know what? We're ready to give something back, and we're luckily enough working in a theatre with young people. So no matter what we do, people are going to be looking up to people like me, myself, and Manny.
Yeah, every day's a lesson learned, man, and we just take that as well into development while we help other young people.
Yeah,
that's good.
So where did your passion for writing actually come from? When did you first realise that?
Well, this is it. All my life I've been I'm sort of like a TV box. I've got so much going on, but I don't know where to channel it. So I guess writing was the first thing that's kind of showed me that there are other options. You don't have to hang around with the wrong crowd. You don't have to go out on a weekend and get drunk or off your head. You can just keep your head down, and you're not deemed as doing nothing with your life. You can actually focus on something and be really positive. So unfortunately my dad passed away a few years ago. He had Parkinson's disease, and I didn't know how to cope with knowing that he wasn't very well. So I started off getting into a little bit of trouble, maybe hanging around the wrong people, experimenting with substances, and realising, do you know what, there's more to life than this, but I don't really know how to get to this stage or how to get into work. And you've all got to experiment as a teenager. So growing up, I had my dad's illness on one side, and I had all these distractions, whether it could be smoking or hanging around after school getting into trouble, and I didn't know what to do. And the lyric was the first sort of place that said, do you know what, if you've got a skill, we can help you and we can guide you and we can channel that into something really, really positive, that you don't have to go around and cause your own entertainment. You can make your own entertainment in a safe, constructive environment. So I used to go to Lyric from the age of 17, between living in hostels, and they were the first sort of place that said, we're going to show you how to own your skills, how to really put what you know up here and get it out of your mind and put it into paper. And my skills were so very challenging skills. So I like to do sound effects, I like to do impressions and comedy and make people laugh, but I also used to think, how can I take this into acting? I'm not a straight actor, and I don't just want to go on stage and perform to be liked. I had a passion, but my passion was to make people learn from me, and people go, wow, he's really got something, but in his style of telling. So for me, I had some really big people who inspired me as I grew up. Comedians like Lee Evans, writers John Sullivan, who wrote Only Fools and Horses, and also some sketches for 80s comedies like Porridge or Steptoe and Son. Watching these shows, I used to love them, and it would be like an addiction, but a pure natural addiction. So from the ages of like maybe 5, 6, 7, growing up watching all these old school comedies, and then it would just kind of fizzle out as you'd grow up. And I used to think, why aren't these jokes applied more in life? These are real life jokes that have been written by people that had gone through these experiences. Why are they not getting more appreciation? So as I grew up, I used to basically write similar sort of jokes written from believable real life situations, and that kind of distracted me from my dad's illness. And it kind of said that you don't need to rely on anyone. You don't have to rely on anyone else. You can make anything happen. And luckily I was in a nice calm hostel, so I could keep my head down and do a bit of writing when I finished work and went to the theatre. I didn't have to spend that much money, so I was staying safe and being in a nice environment. And it sort of turned into from nothing into something. And I was going into acting and going into work going, look, this is a scene I've wrote about these two characters who have kind of grown as I've grown, and people were giving me great feedback. They were saying, this is such a strong script, and this reminds me of this show, and this reminds me of this, and you've got to push it and make it happen. And it got to the point where if I wasn't doing anything with it, I would be disappointed in myself. So the passion for writing and the passion to go, do you know what, I want to make people laugh, I want people to learn from characters like these, that's what spurred me on, and that's what got me through. And before I knew it, I had something so strong that I had to take somewhere. Me and Manny had to do something with this.
Exactly. That's the message, man. If you've got a plan and you're really passionate about it, like you've got your 100% effort in it, and it's your whole life, don't leave it on the shelf and look at it. Take it from the shelf and do something with it. That's the overall message.
And I think it's good to say, no one out there, nothing comes for free. You get in life what you put in. If you sit around waiting, something's going to happen, this is going to happen one day, that's going to happen, then you've got yourself to blame. If you want something enough, you've got to make it happen. You've got to go out there and go, do you know what? I can obviously do this with your help, but with myself, I can make it to this stage, so that no matter what happens, I can say I've tried my best, and it's at a point in my life where I'm happy and I'm comfortable with it, rather than going, oh, do you know what? One day I'll make that happen, or one day we'll be actors, one day we'll do this. Yeah. We didn't wait for that one day. We went, do you know what? Whether you like it or not, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
That is something that really needs to be done. That passion and that drive. And what I really, really have to compliment you both for is that you're not keeping that knowledge to yourselves. You've actually realised it, and you're now using it within the lyric or everywhere else that you are, even in the stories that you're telling, to pass it on to others. I was going to say for younger generation, but I don't think it necessarily is the case.
It's level to anyone that wants help.
Because it doesn't necessarily have to be like because young people. That's the stereotype people would say because we're young. You know, it's a message to young people. No, because a guy at 25 onwards to maybe 35 is going through that kind of hell, and he needs that message as well in his head as well. And he needs that as a wake-up call. So it's depicted to all young ages, man.
This is
a wide span of audience.
Yeah. So in terms of the characters, how did you come about creating those?
Well, believe it or not, I am Lanks. That is a little bit of me. I believe in life, when you write from the heart, when you write about what you know, that's when you've got something gold and you can't go wrong. You can go wrong, but luckily I like to think I didn't. So Lanks is me with the volume turned right up to the top, okay? So in life, I like wrestling, I like different comedies, I like all different things with the characters pushed way to the max. It might be, it might be unbelievable, but for me, that's saying, do you know what, you're doing something well and you're doing it to your best ability. So I'd say Lanks is myself with the volume turned up, and a lot of the situations that Lanks and SHUB have been through are real situations that myself or people I know, my family members or my friends and people that I know have gone through or inspired me to go, do you know what, that could work, and that would be really funny seeing how Lanks and SHUB would deal with that sort of situation. Good example, Manny was, you know how you stop the bus these days, hold your hand out to stop the bus. Noticed Manny stopping the bus, and I thought, do you know what, it'd be really funny if SHUB continued to do that and thought, stop the train, or maybe he goes up an escalator and wants to stop it by holding his hands out. So it's about taking an idea and growing with it and not going, do you know what, that's the end of that story. Anything can happen, and it's just about sort of expanding these ideas and sort of seeing where else they can go.
And that's where the stem comes from. It's about stemming that idea that you just developed, you know, like a plant, and it grows to a tree. You know, that's how it is.
Lovely. And the character of SHUB was literally a really good close mate of mine, believe it or not, like Manny. And it was just little bits of his life merged with another character and another character. And I thought, do you know what, this is such a strong, random, crazy, unpredictable character that it needs to be out there. But the fact that I knew this was loosely based on a close mate of mine gave me the push to go, do you know what, this could be believable because I actually know someone where this could happen. So I think that's the confidence. Work with what you know. I mean, it's great if you can come up with a character that's out of nothing that's believable and it sells as well. But I think with me, the confidence really helps me. If I know that this has happened in the real world and it is believable because I've took aspects from this life and that life, that really shows, do you know what, that can work, and then you can do something as strong as possible because you believe in it.